All right, so you're ready to tackle Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, it's a pretty huge one in the world of personal finance.
It's
Correct.
just like the book, you know? It's the
Yeah.
one everyone says you gotta read. And for this deep dive, we're going right into the excerpts you all sent in.
Awesome.
And let me tell you, some of these ideas are pretty mind-blowing, like really make you think. Right off the bat, the book throws you into this contrast, like two totally different ways of looking at money.
Yeah, it's like you're getting almost like two mentors for the price of one.
Exactly.
You've got Robert Kiyosaki, and he's learning about money from, well, two dads, basically.
Okay, so there's his own dad.
Right, his biological father, super educated, like has all the degrees, but financially, always struggling.
And then there's his friend's dad.
Exactly, and this guy's a self-made entrepreneur, totally different background.
And it's wild how different their advice is about, like, everything money related. Work, wealth, even whether it's bad to love money.
Like one dad says it's the root of all evil, right?
Classic. But the other one is like, no, it's the like of money that's the problem.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Seriously, it made me question everything I thought I knew about money.
That's the point, though, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's like this aha moment where you realize there's no one right answer when it comes to money.
Right.
It's about being exposed to different ways of thinking.
And honestly, I think we all need that reminder sometimes, because we often just like inherit our money beliefs from our families without even knowing it.
Absolutely. We absorb those mindsets like sponges. They shape how we make decisions about money without us even realizing it.
Okay, so there's this part of the book that just like stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, yeah.
It says, the rich don't work for money. I was like, wait a minute. Doesn't everyone work for money?
Yeah, that's definitely a head scratcher at first.
It is. Like,
But what Kiyosaki is getting at is that the rich, they're not focused on just trading their time for a paycheck. It's about building assets that generate wealth.
okay, and he uses this image that's like so simple but so powerful. Picture this. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket,
Right.
but a liability takes money out.
Perfect example. Think about your car.
Yeah.
Super useful. We all need one.
Yeah.
But it's a liability. It loses value as soon as you drive it off the lot, and then there's gas, repairs, insurance,
Yeah.
constantly costing you money.
Right. But imagine you own like a rental property.
Okay, I'm with you.
If you manage it well, that property could be an asset, putting money in your pocket every month from those rent payments.
Exactly. So the big question for everyone listening is, what are you focused on? Are you building up those assets or stuck in the rat race just trying to keep up with the bills?
Ooh, that rat race analogy is so real. And it makes me think about this other point the book really drives home. It's not about how much you earn, it's about how much you keep.
Truth.
Like, it totally challenges that whole get a good job and you'll be set idea.
Because you could be making a killer salary, but if your spending goes up right alongside it, you're not really getting ahead.
It's like those lottery winners stories. They win millions and then end up broke.
Right. It's not enough to have money. You got to know how to manage it. And that's where things like taxes and mortgages and all that consumer debt come in. They can really eat away at your income without you realizing it.
It's sneaky.
But the wealthy, they understand how to minimize those drains on their money.
Smart.
And they get that money alone doesn't equal security. The book even talks about these like super wealthy businessmen back in 1923. Many of them ended up losing everything. It's a reminder that building wealth, it takes more than just a high income.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You've got to build a solid foundation and make your money work for you.
And that's where that whole mind your own business advice comes in.
Exactly. It's all about creating a system where your money's working even when you're not.
Okay, so the next part gets a little controversial, but it's super important to understand how wealth is built. It's all about corporations and what Kiyosaki calls legal tax loopholes.
Yeah. This is where he dives into how the rich use corporations to legally reduce their taxes in a way that most employees just can't.
And just to be clear, he's not talking about cheating the system.
No, not at all.
It's about understanding the rules of the game and using them to your advantage.
Think of it like learning the rules of a sport. You wouldn't play basketball without knowing how the game works.
That's a great analogy. And it makes me think about that Robin Hood thing he talks about. Like, is taking from the rich and giving to the poor really helping in the long run?
That's a big question, right? It forces you to think beyond those simple solutions and look at the bigger picture.
Totally. And, you know, one of the things that really hit me about Rich Dad, Poor Dad is that it's about way more than just money. It's about, like, mindset. He He talks about financial intelligence as something you have to train, like a muscle, not just something you read in a book.
He's right. It's not just about knowledge, it's about taking action. He talks about how fear and playing it safe can really hold people back.
Yeah, like being afraid to make a move because you might lose.
Exactly. It's like you're afraid to exercise a muscle because you might get sore.
Ooh, good one. And Kiyosaki, he actually does stuff. He's not all talk, like that story about the house he bought.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone else thought it was a dump, but he saw the potential. He was looking with his mind, not just his eyes.
That's financial intelligence in action for sure. Seeing opportunity where others just see problems.
Okay, we're back. And wow, my brain is still like buzzing from all that. That whole assets versus liabilities thing is making me look at my budget sideways.
It's those mental shifts that really make a difference, and this book is packed with them.
For real. So there's this thing called the cash a flow quadrant. Big part of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Hmm.
But I gotta be honest, I was a little lost at first.
It's one of those things like once you get it, it clicks, but the first time you see it,
Yeah.
yeah, can be a bit confusing. So Kiyosaki, he divides the world into these four categories. It's about how people relate to money and work, employees, self-employed, business owners, and investors.
And it's not just about your actual job title, right? It's more about your mindset, your whole approach to money.
Exactly. So let's start with the E quadrant, the employees. These are the folks who value security, that steady paycheck. Above all else, they're trading time for money.
Which, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just about knowing where you are in the quadrant.
Yeah.
I know what that means for your financial future.
Right on. And Kiyosaki points out that a lot of people in that E quadrant, despite working hard, they often feel stuck, like they're in that rat race, always trying to keep up with expenses.
Then you've got the S quadrant, the self-employed or small business owners. I feel seen.
The passionate ones, the ones who are all about doing their own thing, being their own boss, fiercely independent.
But they also tend to be super hands-on, right? Which can mean working more hours than they would as an employee. The irony.
And that's where the B quadrant comes in, the business owners who figured out how to build a system, a team. So they're not just working in their business, they're working on it.
Yeah, it's about creating something that doesn't need you there 24/7. And this is where Kiyosaki's background really shows.
Oh, for sure. He's all about building a business that can run smoothly, even when you're not around.
So it's not just trading hours for dollars anymore. It's building something that generates income, whether you're working or on vacation.
Leading us right into the I quadrant, the investors. These are the folks who make their money work for them, investing in assets that generate that sweet, sweet passive income.
And this is where that whole financial freedom dream starts to feel real, right?
Absolutely. Kiyosaki argues that the path to real wealth is about moving from the left side of the quadrant, the E and S, over to the right side, the B and I.
From trading time for money to building assets that create wealth on their own. Mind blown.
It's a journey, for sure.
And it's not about everyone becoming like a CEO or some Wall Street hotshot. It's about finding your path to financial freedom, whatever that looks like for you.
That's it. It's about using your skills and talents to build a life where you're in control of your time and your money.
Love that. Now, another big theme in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it might sound kind of counterintuitive, is the importance of overcoming fear, especially the fear of failure. Kiyosaki talks about this a lot.
He's all about those mistakes, embracing them, learning from them. It's not about avoiding failure. It's about using it, you know, learning how to fail forward.
Like that example with the Texans and the Alamo. They don't try to hide their failures, they own them.
What a powerful analogy. It's not about letting failure define you. It's about using it to fuel your fire, making you even stronger.
Because let's face it, no one gets it right all the time. Even the most successful people, they've had their setbacks, their challenges along the way.
The real question is, how do you respond? Do you let those challenges stop you? Or do you use them as stepping stones to climb even higher?
So Kiyosaki also talks about overcoming laziness. And at first I was like, wait, hold up, I work my butt off. But then I realized he's talking about a different kind of laziness, right?
It's that mental laziness, that resistance to pushing ourselves, stepping out of our comfort zone, learning and growing.
It's like that example of the businessman who works himself to death, neglecting his family, his own well-being. Being busy doesn't equal being productive.
Truth. It's about making sure your actions are aligned with your goals, your values, what really matters to you.
And I think a big part of that is overcoming that financial procrastination. You know that voice, the one that says, I'll start saving later. I'll learn about investing when I have more money.
But Kiyosaki's a huge advocate for paying yourself first, no matter how small the amount. It's about building those good habits early on.
Which is where that whole financial literacy thing comes in. Really understanding how money works, how to make it work for you, and how to protect it, not lose it.
It's about becoming financially empowered, not just financially secure. There's a difference.
I love that. And speaking of empowerment, Kiyosaki also talks about overcoming arrogance, especially when it comes to money.
He's got a point there. A lot of people, especially in the financial world, they use arrogance to hide their own ignorance. They're so scared to admit they don't know something, they end up making big mistakes.
It's like that saying, better to be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt, right?
Exactly. Kiyosaki's all about being a lifelong learner, constantly seeking out new knowledge, being open to different perspectives.
And one of the best ways to do that, he says, is to find mentors, people who have already achieved what you want to achieve. Learn from their experience.
He talks about finding someone who's done what you want to do, taking them out to lunch, just picking their brain. Simple as that.
Being proactive, seeking out that knowledge, those skills you need, and recognizing that learning. It's an investment in yourself, not an expense.
Speaking of investments, Kiyosaki's also all about thinking big, looking for those opportunities others might miss.
And he warns against getting too caught up in trying to find the perfect deal, the one that's going to make you a millionaire overnight.
Yeah, that magic bullet doesn't really exist. Building wealth. It's usually a gradual thing, requires consistent effort, smart decisions over time.
It's like that example he gives about buying that rundown house, the one nobody wanted. He fixed it up, sold it for a profit.
It's about seeing potential where others see problems and having the guts to take those calculated risks.
And realizing that the best opportunities, they often come from the most unexpected places. Kiyosaki talks about being open to all kinds of markets, not just the traditional ones, like stocks, real estate.
He's a contrarian investor at heart. Buy when everyone else is selling, sell when everyone else is buying. Go against the grain.
Think for yourself.
And know that the best time to buy, it's often when things look the worst.
Buy low, sell high. Classic.
Exactly. And that principle, it applies to more than just investing. It's a philosophy, a way of life.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here, from assets and liabilities to overcoming fear, finding mentors. Phew. Let's take a quick pause, catch our breath, and then we'll come back to wrap up our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Back at a flash with some final thoughts and key takeaways.
All right, we're back, and I gotta say, there's a lot to unpack from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Like, my head's still spinning a little.
Right. So many ideas in there.
One thing that really hit home for me is Kiyosaki's focus on actually, doing stuff, not just reading about it.
He's big on that learning by doing thing, even if it means, messing up a bit along the way.
Totally. It's like he says in the book, you can't learn to ride a bike just by reading about it.
You got to get on and pedal.
Exactly, even if you fall a few times.
Scraped knees are part of the process, right?
And it's the same with building wealth, I think.
It's not a spectator sport,
Yeah.
You can't just sit on the sidelines and expect things to happen. You got to get in the game.
So what's a good place to start? Because it can feel overwhelming, right?
Kiyosaki talks about starting small.
It's easy to get caught up in looking for that one big score, the investment that's going to make you rich overnight.
The magic bullet.
Yeah, but that's not really how it usually goes. So it's more about building momentum, right? Starting with something manageable and then building from there.
Exactly. Like buying a small rental property. Use that rental income to pay down the mortgage. Then you can get another one and another one. Build your portfolio over time.
It's like that snowball effect.
Start small, picks up speed,
Exactly.
and you can use that principle for anything, really, any asset class.
Okay, that makes sense. And another thing Kiyosaki points out is there's no one right way to achieve financial freedom. You got to find what works for you.
Super important point. What works for one person might not work for another. It's got to align with your strengths, your values, the things that are important to you.
So it's not about copying what someone else did. It's about finding your own path.
Exactly. Be open to trying different things, experimenting a little. You'll figure out what clicks.
Because at the end of the day, that's what financial freedom is all about, isn't it? Having choices, living life on your own terms.
Having the time and resources to do what you want, when you want.
And that peace of mind that comes with knowing you're financially secure.
Kiyosaki nails it with his final message. If you want to be rich, you must know what kind of income to work hard for, how to keep it, and how to protect it from loss.
Wow. So much wisdom packed into one sentence. It's
Right.
about taking control, right? Becoming financially intelligent.
And remembering that financial education is a journey. It's not
Yeah.
like you reach the finish line and you're done. It's an ongoing thing.
Always learning, always growing. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's sticking with you the most? What's that big takeaway you're going to walk away with?
I think for me, it's that financial freedom really is possible, but it takes more than just working hard. It's working smart, developing that financial intelligence, taking action, and not being afraid to fail.
I love that. And it makes me think about what Kiyosaki said about if he'd quit after his first failed business, he probably wouldn't be where he is today.
Exactly.
It's a good reminder that setbacks, they're just part of the journey.
They are.
So what's your next step? What action are you going to take based on all this?
Keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep taking action. You got this.
I love that. And remember, even the longest journey starts with a single step. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad.